guys, I'm Kat and this is Catadactyl. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up part 1, and actually this wrap-up is going to be super awesome because only one of the books I read was less than 4 stars. So I have had a great first half of March in terms of reading, so let's go ahead and get right on into it. So the only book I've read this month that was less than 4 stars is Uncommon Type by Tom Hanks, which I gave 2.5 stars. So I'm kind of chuckling at this because I went into it really dubious because I don't particularly like it when famous people write books. I think it doesn't usually go that well. So I went into it with a lot of trepidation, but it was voted for Hiroshima's book club, so I did read it and I went to the meeting. And overall, this collection of short stories weaves together thematic elements such as patriotism and typewriters. But while I found most of them very mundane and harmless on the whole, nothing really jumped out at me, and sometimes the male gaze in the stories was a bit much for my liking. So overall, 2.5 stars. I don't really recommend it unless you have a thing for typewriters. Fun fact is that Tom Hanks has like a huge thing for typewriters, like he has hundreds of them, and he actually wrote the collection of short stories on different typewriters. So, I mean, just not for me. So the next book on this list is All You Need Is Kill by Hiroshi Sakurazaka, and I gave this book 4 stars. So in the beginning, Keiji is a warrior and he fights in kind of a Gundam suit. He realizes that he is having to live the same day over and over every time he dies, and on his 158th reiteration, a woman called the Bitch of War appears and might change everything. So when I first started this book, I read a few chapters and then I put it down because after, I think, the 4th or 5th time Keiji died, I was like, okay, like, when are we gonna get to number 158? But when I picked it back up on my friend's recommendation, we did get to 158 quicker, and then, like, shit just got effing crazy, and it was so good. I didn't see the ending coming at all. It really ripped me up and totally came out of nowhere. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's not even that long, and if you like, I think like point of view video games that are like shoot 'em up or have Gundam suits or kind of mecha, then this would be for you. So the next book on this list is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This was one of my most anticipated reads for spring, and I have already done a full review of it, and I will leave the link down below. Overall, I really loved it. I gave it 4 stars, and we follow Lyra, who is Princess Siren royalty, and she is very lethal and very gritty, and I really like it because she starts out as kind of an anti-heroine or more of a gray character, and she has 17 hearts in her possession of princes that she has slaughtered. And on this year's heart hunting mission, things go awry and something happens that isn't supposed to. And to punish her, her mother, who is the sea goddess, turns her into what she hates the uttermost, which is a human. So she has until the winter solstice to capture a certain prince's heart and hand it over to her mother, or be human forever. And on the flip side, we have Prince Elian, who is heir to the glittering gold kingdom, but he wants nothing to do with it. Instead, he wants to roam the high seas with his band of pirates, and he wants to murder all of the sirens that are in the ocean. So, I mean, that's great, right? Like, this retelling was so good, and I'm not going to say much more about it other than that I gave it 4 stars, and it was great because I do have a full review. So, let's move on. The next book that I want to talk about is The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night by Campbell. This is a collection of short stories with magical realism and fantasy elements woven throughout, and Campbell just does fairy tale and dark so well. It's actually quite hard to explain what these stories are about, but some of the elements that I love the most include buying hearts online, or storing ghosts in gem jars, or having an island that is full of a coffin hotel. So I just wanted to quickly talk about my 3 favorite stories, which really just blew me away. So I'm just gonna give their title and then give like a little bit about what I loved about them, just to draw you in so that you can read this book yourself. Okay, so one of my top 3 is actually the first story, called Animals, and we follow a man who has bought a heart online. But not only that, he has also slaughtered a swan to get its heart, and later we find out that there are many types of hearts he has at home, some of which he has bought, some of which he has caught, and some of which are decaying. So that story just like stuck with me, and it is such a good first story. So another of my favorites I had to look up because the title is pretty long, and it's the third story, Plum Pie, Zombie Green, Yellow Bee, Purple Monster. And in this one we follow a bunch of children and young adults who are part plant. So they have vines growing out of their chests, and they have leaves for hair, and they have flowers on their skin. And I could have read a whole book, a whole series based on just that chapter alone. I do so hope that happens. Jen Campbell, please write that book or series. I would definitely buy it. And the last story was also one of my favorites, called Bright White Hearts, and we follow a girl who is working at an aquarium. She muses on life, deformities, weird things about the bodies, and also strange creatures that live in the depths of the ocean. I really loved how elements of sea creatures were tied into her own aquarium narrative, and I thought it was really excellently done. I would have probably loved to see this as a movie. I know it's just like a really short story, but please also make a movie of it. I would be so keen. Yeah, so I love this, and I'm gonna stop talking about it now, but 4.5 stars. So good. Okay, so next I have The Mad Scientist's Daughter by Cassandra Rose Clarke, which I gave 4.5 stars overall. I just want to take like a moment of silence for how hard I ship this ship. Oh my god, my heart. Like, everyone should read this book because I just want to talk about it with everyone, and if more people read it, then fanfiction will be made. But let's just rewind, and I'm going to tell you what it's about. So we follow Kat, who is a young girl who is known as the Mad Scientist's Daughter. Her father isn't really mad per se, but he is working with cybernetics in a world that is post-apocalyptic, and then they used robots to rebuild the world, and now society largely is against sentient robots and doesn't see her father's work as being helpful or productive for society's progression. So one day her father brings home someone called Finn. And Finn is a multi-billion-dollar sentient robot who is the only one of his kind. He is so sentient and so lifelike that people cannot tell that he is a robot, and also he is more advanced than any other robot so far. So he stands alone in his own species, kind of. And the father brings him in to save him from destruction. So he is largely becoming a part of the family and learning what it means to be a human. And when he meets Kat, she's a little girl who just wants to run around in the woods. But then when her father tells her Finn is going to be her new tutor, she bemoans the fact and she doesn't want to study and she just wants to keep running around in the woods. As time goes on, Kat grows and she goes to high school, and then she goes to university, and her relationship with Finn changes. And Finn is trying to navigate his own way in the world when robots are getting more and more rights granted to them in society, and trying to figure out where he fits. If he's part of the family, if he's a robot, if everything he's doing for them is because of programming, or if he has feelings of his own. And Kat is struggling with her own life, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be autonomous, and the struggle is real. Oh my god, this book was so good. I did have some problems with it, so if you want to see more about that, then I'm going to leave my review down below. But this was so flipping good. Please, everyone should read this book. I just want to talk about it. It's so good, and I ship them so hard. Oh my god, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh my god, yes. And the last book that I would love to talk about is We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver, and I gave it 4.5 stars. So this book is haunting. We follow Eva, who is a mother trying to cope with her son Kevin's destruction that he brought upon his school, his classmates, his teachers, and some of the acquaintances he had at school. So yes, he is a school shooter, and we start from the beginning of the novel as Eva goes through her life even before Kevin, like her relationship with her ex-husband, and it's all told, she's writing letters to her ex-husband from present day but looking backwards. So when I first started reading this novel, I hated the writing style. I really hated it. And I really hate when everything is told flashback. But over time, I realized that the way in which Eva is telling it shows so much more about Eva than the telling part of it. So that aspect changed for me. And then also, once Kevin was born, about 1/4 of the way through the book, I was hooked. I just think that the way in which Shriver wrote all the characters and all of the developments that happen, you're not sure who is to blame for this shooting. Is it upbringing? Is it just that Kevin was a bad seed from the beginning? Is it his father's expectations? Is it the comparison against his sibling? Is it the bullying by his classmates? Is it just that nature can't trump nurture or nurture can't trump nature? What is going on? And it brings up a lot of things about motherhood and also people who don't want children versus people who want children, and which way is the right way of thinking. And I love that this book doesn't resolve anything. Nothing is resolved. Every character is gray. You could argue till you're blue in the face that this way was right, this way was right, that person was wrong. And I was like shook by like the end of the novel. I was like, I don't even know who's to blame. Like, Kevin is obviously physically to blame, but like before he did that, like to create that situation, I have no idea. I'm so confused. Everyone is gray. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm questioning everything. Literally questioning so many things. And so I said to my husband, I'm like, you have to read this, please read it. I really want to talk about it with someone because I know it came out a long time ago and I just never picked it up. And then I found it one day and I was like, I should read this. And I am so glad I read this. So 4.5 stars. It was brilliant and I think it has a lot to say. So yeah. That finishes up my March wrap-up part 1. If you liked this video, then please give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. It would really mean a lot. And let me know what you guys thought about some of these books. Thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you later. Toodles!